I sat in my study, heart pounding, as my son Ethan and his wife Rachel stepped through the door, her syringe gleaming with death. "Clara, where's the evidence?" Rachel demanded, her voice cold, no trace of the daughter-in-law I thought I knew. Ethan's eyes avoided mine, but I saw the truth. My own son, the boy I had loved for 34 years, was here to end my life. The wire under my blouse recorded every word, the FBI waiting outside. But in that moment, I was alone with their betrayal. "Was any of it real, Ethan?" I whispered, stalling, praying for time. Rachel smirked. "He loves your money, Clara, just like I do." Her words cut deeper than any needle, but I held firm, knowing help was coming. This is my story, Clara Prescott, a 68-year-old widow who outsmarted a plot to steal my $90 million fortune. If you have ever faced betrayal, stick with me. Hit that subscribe button, because this tale of survival and justice will leave you speechless. Let us dive in. I am Clara Prescott, 68 years old, and I thought I had seen it all. When you inherit a ranching empire worth $90 million, sprawling across Colorado's golden plains, you learn fast that wealth does not just open doors, it invites wolves. For decades, I believed I could spot danger a mile away, honed by years as a district attorney, reading lies in the eyes of strangers. But nothing prepared me for the moment I realized the deadliest threat was not out there in the world. It was sleeping in the guest room of my own home, calling me mom, my son, Ethan the boy. I raised with every piece of my heart, looked at me one morning with eyes that did not belong to him. They were cold, desperate, and hungry for something I could not give. That was the day I learned the true cost of my fortune, not in dollars, but in trust shattered beyond repair. Picture this: a 400-acre ranch where cattle graze under skies so wide they swallow your secrets. My grandfather built this empire, carving wealth from the earth with calloused hands and a stubborn heart. I never wanted it, not the way he did. But when my husband Thomas passed 5 years ago, it fell to me. Alone in a mansion of cedar beams and memories, I managed it all: bank accounts, land leases, and the weight of a legacy that felt more like a cage. Ethan, my only child, was supposed to carry it forward. At 34, he had charm, ambition, and a smile that could sell dreams. But lately, his dreams came with price tags, and I was always the one paying. I used to think family was my anchor, the one thing money could not break. I was wrong. When Ethan walked through my door that crisp October morning into 4, asking for $12,000, with a tremor in his voice, I saw something new in him, a shadow of greed maybe, or fear. His wife Lila trailed behind her beauty, sharp as a blade, her smile too perfect to trust. I did not know then that the coffee she would bring me days later would smell like almonds and death, or that my own son would stand by as she tried to end my life. This is my story of surviving the unthinkable, of turning betrayal into justice. Stick with me. It is a tale of lies, poison, and a mother's fight to reclaim her soul. You will not believe how it ends. I wake each morning to the sound of silence, broken only by the distant lowing of cattle on my Colorado ranch. At 68, I have grown used to the quiet, but it is not the peaceful kind. It is the kind that creeps into your bones, reminding you that the people you loved most are gone. My husband Thomas used to fill this house with laughter, his voice echoing through the cedar-beamed halls of our 12-room mansion. When he died 5 years ago, he took the warmth with him. Now it is just me, 400 acres of rolling plains, and a fortune I never asked for. The Prescott Ranch, built by my grandfathers, sweat and dreams, is a kingdom of wealth and loneliness. I manage it because I have to, not because I want to. The land is breathtaking: golden grass, swaying under endless skies dotted with cattle, and the occasional oil pump a nod to the mineral rights that made us rich. But beauty does not fill empty chairs at the dinner table. My days are spent reviewing leases, signing checks, and staring out windows that frame a world I feel disconnected from. I was a district attorney for 25 years, trained to spot lies and fight for truth. That life taught me to trust my instincts, but it did not prepare me for the emptiness of widowhood or the weight of an empire I never wanted to rule. Then there is Ethan, my only son, 34 years old and restless. He has got his father's charm and a smile that could convince you the sky is green. But lately, that smile hides something, maybe ambition, maybe desperation. He has tried his hand at real estate deals, each one flashier than the last, each one failing faster than I can fund them. I have bailed him out more times than I can count, wiring money for projects that never see daylight. I want to believe in him, but every check I write feels like I am buying his dreams instead of teaching him to build his own. Ethan's wife Lila is another story. She is 32 with platinum hair that catches the light and a laugh that feels rehearsed. She is beautiful, no question, but there is a sharpness to her, like a diamond you are afraid to touch. They have been married 3 years, and while she calls me mom with a honeyed voice, her eyes stay cold, calculating. I try to love her for Ethan's sake, but something about her feels like a performance, like she's reading lines from a script I have not seen. As I sit in my study, watching the sun set over the ranch, I cannot shake the feeling that my empire is about to become a battleground, and I am not sure who I can trust. It was a chilly October morning in 2024 when I heard the crunch of tires on the gravel drive. From my study, I saw Ethan's sleek black SUV pull up to the ranch house, its engine cutting through the quiet like a warning. My son does not visit often, not without a reason. At 34, Ethan carries himself like a man who expects the world to bend. But today, his shoulders were hunched, his steps hurried. My heart lifted at the sight of him, then sank just as fast. 25 years as a district attorney taught me to read people, and Ethan's body screamed trouble. He burst into my study without knocking. His usually neat hair mussed his designer jacket wrinkled like he had slept in it. "Mom, we need to talk," he said, his voice tight, almost brittle. I set down the lease reports I had been reviewing and studied him. Dark circles bruised his eyes, and his hands twitched like he was fighting to keep them still. This was not the confident boy I had raised. This was someone cornered, desperate. I gestured to the leather chair across from my desk, trying to keep my voice steady. "What is wrong, sweetheart? You look like you have not slept." He collapsed into the chair, rubbing his face. "I need money, Mom. $12,000. It is for a deal, a real estate project that is a sure thing." His words tumbled out too fast, rehearsed. I had heard this pitch before. Different numbers, same story. His last venture, a luxury condo flop, cost me $2,000. Before that, a failed resort plan bled me dry. Each time he swore it was the one, but all I got were excuses and empty bank accounts. "What is the project?" I asked, keeping my tone neutral, though my gut was already nodding. "It is a commercial development," he said, avoiding my eyes. "Mixed use, high end. I have got a partner in Denver, big connections. We are talking millions in returns." His vagueness set off alarms. In my courtroom days, I had seen defendants dodge questions like this, spinning half-truths to hide something uglier. "Who is your partner?" I pressed. His jaw tightened, and for a split second, I saw something flicker in his eyes. Anger, maybe fear. "You do not know him, Mom. He is solid. Okay? Can you just trust me?" Trust. The word stung. I wanted to trust Ethan to see the boy who used to climb into my lap and promise to make me proud. But this man, fidgeting in my study, felt like a stranger. $12,000 is a lot, Ethan, I said softly. I have funded your dreams before, and they have not worked out. Maybe it is time to try this on your own. His face darkened, and for a moment, I saw his father temper in him, the man I had divorced for trying to control my fortune. You do not get it, Mom, he snapped, standing. I am drowning. You will regret this. As he stormed out, I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the October air. 2 days after Ethan's visit, I was in my kitchen, the morning sun filtering through the pines, when Lila arrived. She glided in at precisely 10 a.m., her platinum hair catching the light, her cream-colored dress screaming money. She carried 2 steaming mugs of coffee, her smile as polished as ever. Clara, I thought we would have a little catch-up, she said, her voice syrupy, but her eyes were sharp, like a hawk watching prey. I had never trusted Lila's charm, but I played along, taking the mug she offered. How sweet of you, I said, forcing a smile. What is this blend? Something special, she replied, settling at the table. Ethiopian beans, a hint of vanilla. I made it just for you. But as I lifted the mug, a sharp, bitter scent hit me. Almonds mixed with something chemical, like hospital antiseptic. My years as a district attorney had wired me to sense danger, and every nerve screamed wrong. Lila watched me, her gaze too intense, while Ethan hovered by the door, his eyes glued to his phone, avoiding mine. The air felt thick like a storm about to break. I thought of Ethan's desperation, his veiled threat 2 days ago, and my pulse quickened. This was not just coffee. When Lila glanced at Ethan, I acted on instinct. In one fluid motion, I switched our identical mugs, my hands steady from years of keeping calm in court. Ethan mentioned your disagreement, Lila said, her tone probing. He is so passionate about his projects. It is hard when family sees things differently. She lifted her mug, my original one, and sipped her eyes, never leaving me. I pretended to drink, watching her closely. Moments later, her face twitched, a flicker of confusion crossing her features. She set the mug down, her hand trembling slightly. This is delicious, I lied, my voice calm despite the adrenaline surging through me. Where did you find it? Elm Street, she murmured, distracted, her brow furrowing. The room grew tense, Ethan checking his watch, Lila's composure slipping. I knew then that coffee was meant for me. My heart pounded, not with fear, but with the clarity of betrayal. I had raised Ethan, loved him through every failure, and now he stood by as his wife tried to poison me. But I am still here telling this story because I trusted my gut. If it has moved you, hit that subscribe button. It means the world to share this journey with you. Stay with me. The truth gets darker from here. The ride to St. Mary's Hospital felt like a scene from a nightmare I could not wake from. Lila slumped in the front seat of Ethan's SUV, her coughs turning into gasping, theatrical wheezes, her face flushed, then paling to a sickly gray. Ethan gripped the wheel, his voice a perfect blend of panic and concern. Hold on, sweetheart. We are almost there, he said, glancing at her every few seconds. I sat in the back, watching this performance unfold, my mind racing. The almond-like smell of that coffee lingered in my memory, a warning I had narrowly escaped. Cyanide, I thought, recalling cases from my prosecutorial days, fast-acting, deadly, imperfect for someone who wanted no loose ends. That coffee was meant for me, and Lila had drunk her own poison. At the hospital, chaos greeted us. Nurses rushed Lila to a gurney, monitors beeping as they hooked her up to oxygen. Ethan played the devoted husband flawlessly, calling out, "She cannot breathe," while supporting her arm. I stood back, my heart heavy with the weight of what I knew. Dr. Emily Carter, a young physician with sharp eyes, approached me. "You are family," she asked, her clipboard ready. "Her mother-in-law." I said, my voice steady, despite the storm inside. "We were having coffee when she got sick." Lila's eyes flicked to mine from across the room, and in a hoarse whisper, she said, "Clara made the coffee." She handed it to me. The accusation landed like a blade, sharp and deliberate. Dr. Carter's gaze shifted, suspicion flickering. "Did you both drink the same coffee?" she asked. "Similar," I replied carefully, "from the same pot." Ethan would not meet my eyes, his focus on Lila, but I saw his shoulders tense. The room felt smaller, the air thick with unspoken lies. I thought of Ethan's desperate visit, his anger, when I refused his money. Was this their plan to frame me? To turn my own son against me? My chest ached, not from fear, but from the realization that the boy I had raised was part of this. I had loved him through every mistake, every failed dream, and now he stood by as Lila pointed her trembling finger at me. As the medical team worked, Ethan approached, his face a mask of concern. "Mom, I am going to grab some of Lila's things from home," he said too quickly. "You will stay with her." I nodded, watching him leave, knowing he was not just getting pajamas. He was covering tracks. Alone in the waiting room, surrounded by outdated magazines and the hum of fluorescent lights, I felt the walls closing in. My own son had betrayed me, and Lila's accusation was just the beginning. I was not just fighting for my life now, I was fighting for my truth. The police arrived at my ranch that afternoon, their vehicles kicking up dust as they invaded my sanctuary. Detective Laura Bennett, a sharp-eyed woman in her early 40s, led the forensics team with a warrant that felt like a betrayal of its own. I stood in my living room, watching strangers in gloves rifle through my life, my books, my photos, my memories, searching for proof I had poisoned Lila. Just 72 hours ago, I had been Clara Prescott, widow and ranch owner, living quietly. Now I was a suspect in an attempted murder. My heart pounded, not with guilt, but with the sickening realization that someone had orchestrated this to destroy me. They focused on the kitchen where Lila claimed the poisoned coffee was made. "Mrs. Prescott, where do you keep your coffee supplies?" a technician asked, her voice clinical. I led them to the pantry, showing them the beans and filters, everything ordinary, yet now treated like evidence. They bagged it, all their cameras, flashing like I was on some crime show. "What about cleaning supplies?" Detective Bennett asked. I pointed to the utility room, bleach, ammonia, the usual suspects in any home. Each item was photographed, sampled, as if my life was a puzzle they were piecing together to trap me. Then came the shout from upstairs. "Detective, you need to see this." My stomach twisted as I followed Bennett to the guest bathroom, a room I had not touched in weeks. Behind the medicine cabinet, they found a glass vial with traces of clear liquid and a handwritten note listing Lila's name with dosage calculations. The handwriting looked eerily like mine, the loops of my L's, the slant of my T's. "Can you explain this?" Mrs. Prescott Bennett asked, holding up the evidence bag. My throat tightened. "I have never seen those before," I said, my voice sounding hollow, even to me, but the doubt in her eyes was clear. She thought I was lying. I thought back to Ethan's hospital errand, those hours he was gone, while Lila played the victim. He had keys to my house, access to my desk, my old legal notes. Could he have forged this? Planted it? The idea felt like a knife in my chest. My son, the boy I had tucked in at night, read stories to, was framing me for murder. Someone had access to my home today, I said, careful not to accuse directly. While we were at the hospital, Bennett's expression did not change, but I knew she heard the implication. "We will analyze these," she said, sealing the bag. "We are also taking your laptop and phone." As they left, my ranch felt violated, no longer a home, but a crime scene. I sat in my study, staring at the cattle grazing outside, and felt the weight of Ethan's betrayal settle deeper. Whoever did this knew me too well, and that hurt more than the handcuffs I feared were coming. I sat in the sterile consultation room at the police station, the walls so thin I could hear Ethan's voice through them, each word slicing deeper than the last. Detective Bennett's questions were sharp, methodical, but it was Ethan's answers that broke me. "My mother has been acting strange lately," he said, his tone heavy, with just the right amount of regret. "She has been paranoid, asking questions about Lila's background, hinting she's after the family money. I thought it was just mother-in-law tension, but now—" He trailed off, leaving the implication hanging like a noose. I gripped the edge of my chair, my prosecutorial instinct screaming that this was calculated a performance to paint me as unhinged. "Has she ever been hostile toward your wife?" Bennett asked. Ethan hesitated just long enough to seem genuine. "Not outright, but she is controlling about the ranch, the money. She does not trust anyone she thinks might want a piece of it." Each word was a betrayal, crafted to make me look like a bitter, suspicious old woman who would snap under the weight of her own wealth. I wanted to scream, to barge in and demand why he was doing this, but I stayed still, my heart fracturing. This was Ethan, my son, who had once drawn me crayon pictures of our ranch, promising to make it bigger someday. Now he was dismantling my life to save his own. I thought of the vial, the forged note in my handwriting. Ethan had been in my house, had access to my old legal pads. He knew how I wrote, how I thought. The realization hit like a physical blow. My own son was framing me, not just for money, but to erase me. My mind raced back to his desperate plea for $12,000, the anger in his eyes when I said no. Was this his revenge? Or something worse, Lila's accusation at the hospital, Ethan's absence, while evidence appeared in my home. It was all too neat, too planned. I felt like a witness on the stand, watching a case against me, build brick by brick from the person I loved most. As Bennett's questions continued, I saw Ethan's strategy plant doubt, make me the villain. "She has been more suspicious lately," he said, questioning everyone's motives. The doubt in his voice was a masterstroke, making it sound like he hated saying it, but had no choice. I had spent 25 years reading lies in courtrooms, but this was not a stranger's deception. This was my flesh and blood. The pain was raw, a mother's grief for a son who had chosen greed over love. But beneath it, a spark of anger flared. If Ethan thought he could bury me, he had forgotten who I was. I had fought tougher battles in court, and I was not done yet. This betrayal was not the end, it was the beginning of my fight. The county jail was a cold gray cage, its concrete walls and flickering fluorescence stripping away any sense of dignity. At 68, I had sent plenty of people to places like this during my years as a district attorney. But sitting on a narrow bunk, the reality hit differently. The clang of metal doors echoed like a heartbeat, each slam reminding me how far I had fallen. Arrested for attempted murder, me Clara Prescott, the woman who had spent decades fighting for justice. The irony was bitter, but the betrayal cut deeper. Ethan, my own son, had built this trap, and I was locked in it, wondering if I would ever see my ranch again. My cellmate, Rosa Mendez, was a wiry woman in her 40s, arrested for petty theft, but sharp as a tack. First time, she asked, eyeing me with a mix of curiosity and pity. I nodded, trying to find comfort on the thin mattress. "They think I poisoned my daughter-in-law," I said the words, tasting like ash. Rosa whistled low. "Family dramas, the worst kind of mess. Did you do it?" "No," I said, my voice firm, despite the doubt creeping in. "But they have got evidence, my fingerprints, my handwriting. It is all too perfect." Rosa leaned back smirking. Sounds like someone set you up good. Question is, can you prove you are innocent? That question haunted me as I lay awake staring at the cracked ceiling. The vial, the note Ethan's damning words to the police, it was a masterclass in framing. I replayed every moment, his desperate plea for money, Lila's poisoned coffee, the way Ethan would not meet my eyes. Had I missed the signs? Had I been too hard on him, too cautious with my wealth? Doubt gnawed at me, but so did anger. I had given Ethan everything, love, support, second chances, and he had repaid me with this. My heart ached for the boy he had been, but the man he had become was a stranger, willing to destroy me for a payout. Rosa's voice broke the silence around 2 a.m. You want to fight this? You gotta think like them. Who has got the most to gain? I turned to her, the spark of an idea forming. My son and his wife, I said. They are after my money. Rosa's eyes gleamed. Then you hit back where it hurts. Money, secrets, whatever they're hiding. You got resources, right? I nodded, thinking of my fortune, my old legal contacts. More than they know, she grinned. Then use them. Do not let them bury you. Her words lit a fire in me. I was not just a victim. I was Clara Prescott, and I had clawed my way through tougher battles. Jail was not the end. It was where I would start planning my revenge. Victor Tate walked into the county jail like a man who owned it, his tailored suit, a stark contrast to the gray walls. At 50, his silver hair and reputation as Colorado's best defense attorney gave me hope. Clara, he said, settling into a chair, you are in deep, but there are cracks in their case. Let us talk. His confidence steadied me, pulling me back to the fighter I used to be. I recounted everything, Ethan's $12,000 demand, the poison coffee, Lila's accusation, the planted evidence. Victor listened, scribbling notes, his face unreadable. The timeline's their weakness, he said finally. You had no warning Lila was coming that morning. If you planned to poison her, you would need advance notice. That suggests someone else set this up. My mind went to Ethan, his absence during the hospital visit, his access to my home. The betrayal stung, but Victor's words gave it shape. There is more, he added, pulling out a folder. My investigator, Henry Cole, dug into Ethan and Lila. It is not pretty. He slid a report across the desk. Ethan owed $35,000 in gambling debts, poker games, sports bets, failed crypto ventures. He is desperate, Victor said. Desperate enough to do something drastic. My heart sank, picturing Ethan's trembling hands, his evasive eyes. But Lila's file was worse. Lila Morrison does not exist, Victor said. Her real name is Rachel Voss, a con artist with a rap sheet in 3 states, fraud, identity theft, and a suspected link to an elderly man's death in Nevada, never prosecuted. I stared at the photo of Rachel, her face the same, but harder stripped of Lila's polished charm. She is a professional, Victor continued. She likely targeted Ethan for your wealth. The pieces clicked together. Ethan was not just greedy. He was a pawn in Rachel's game, manipulated into betraying his own mother. The thought made my chest ache, but it also sharpened my resolve. What is our next step? I asked. Victor leaned forward. We investigate them independently. Financial records, communications, maybe past victims. If Rachel's done this before there is a trail. And Ethan's debts give us motive. I nodded, feeling the old fire from my prosecutorial days reignite. I had spent years tearing apart lies in court. Now I would do it to save myself. Find that trail, Victor, I said. I want to know exactly who I am fighting. As he left, I looked out at the ranch, the cattle grazing under a fading sky. Ethan and Rachel thought they had cornered me, but they had forgotten one thing: I was built for battles like this. The next morning, Victor returned to my ranch, his face grim as he set a thick folder on my study desk. The air felt heavy, like the moment before a verdict in a courtroom. Clara Henrys dug deeper into Rachel Voss. He said, his voice low. She is not just a con artist, she is a predator. My heart thudded as I opened the folder, revealing a trail of deception stretching across states. Rachel, under aliases like Lila Morrison, had a pattern: marry into wealth, eliminate obstacles, and vanish with the money. Victor's words hit like a gavel. She is linked to at least 5 suspicious deaths, elderly men and women, all rich, all ruled accidents or natural causes. No convictions, but the similarities are chilling. I stared at a photo of Rachel from a Nevada case, her eyes cold, no trace of the warm daughter-in-law act. One victim, a 70-year-old widower, died of a supposed heart attack after drinking coffee at a family gathering. Another, in Arison, Arizona, fell ill after a gift of homemade tea. Each time Rachel was there, playing the grieving spouse or friend, then disappearing with bank accounts drained. She targeted Ethan because of you, Victor said. Your $90 million ranch was her jackpot, and framing you for attempted murder was her exit strategy. My stomach churned. This was not just about money. It was about erasing me, rewriting my life as a villain to clear their path. I thought of Ethan, my son, caught in her web. His gambling debts, $35,000 to dangerous people, made him vulnerable, but his choice to help her hurt worse than any poison. Why not just wait for me to die naturally? I asked, my voice shaking with anger and grief. Victor's eyes softened. Because Rachel does not wait. She is patient, but ruthless. And with Ethan's debts piling up, they needed your money now, not later. The realization settled like a stone in my chest. My son had traded my life for his own survival, manipulated by a woman who had made murder her business. We need to prove she poisoned herself to frame me, I said, my old prosecutorial fire flaring. Victor nodded. Henry's tracking her financials offshore, accounts payments to shady contacts. If we can tie her to the cyanide or show a pattern, we will flip this case. I looked out at the ranch, the cattle grazing peacefully under a gray October sky. Rachel and Ethan thought they had outsmarted me, but they did not know the woman they were up against. I had spent decades dismantling lies in court, and now I would do it again to save my name. Keep digging, Victor, I said. If Rachel's a predator, I am the hunter now. As he left, I felt a shift, not just fear, but fury. This was not just about clearing my name anymore. It was about exposing the monsters who had called me family. I sat in my study, the weight of Victor's revelations about Rachel Voss pressing down on me like the Colorado sky before a storm. Ethan's gambling debts, Rachel's deadly history. It was a puzzle coming together, each piece sharper than the last. But Victor had one more bombshell. Clara, there is something you need to know about your will, he said, his voice careful, like he was handling evidence in court. 3 months ago, you changed it. Ethan is no longer your heir. The words hit like a punch, dragging a memory to the surface. I had almost forgotten in the chaos. Last spring, worried about Ethan's reckless spending, failed real estate deals, loans he could not repay, I had met with my estate attorney. His string of flops, each one costlier than the last, made me question his ability to handle the Prescott fortune. I had seen too many families torn apart by wealth handed over without responsibility. So I rewrote my will, leaving the bulk of my $90 million estate to a wildlife charity dedicated to protecting Colorado's endangered species. Ethan would get a modest trust, enough to live comfortably, but not the empire he expected. Henry confirmed. Ethan called your attorney 6 weeks ago, Victor said. He knows you cut him out. My heart sank. That explained his desperation, his $12,000 demand, the poison in my coffee. Ethan was not just after money to pay debts. He wanted the entire ranch, and Rachel had shown him a way to get it. By framing me for attempted murder, they could challenge the will, claiming I was mentally unfit when I changed it. The cruelty of it stole my breath, not just the attempt on my life, but the calculated betrayal by my own son. I had loved him through every failure, every broken promise, and he had turned that love into a weapon. I looked out at the ranch, the cattle grazing, under a fading October light, and felt a flicker of resolve. Ethan and Rachel thought they could erase me, but they had underestimated the woman who had built a career tearing apart lies. If they want the fortune, they will have to fight for it, I told Victor. What is our next move? He leaned forward. We use their greed against them. If we can prove Rachel planned the poisoning, the case against you collapses. I nodded, my anger outweighing my grief. This fight is not just mine. It is for everyone who has faced betrayal and refused to break. If my story resonates, hit that subscribe button. Your support fuels my strength to keep fighting, to share this truth. Stay with me. We are about to turn the tables. The electronic monitoring bracelet chafed my ankle, a constant reminder I was a prisoner in my own home, but it could not cage my resolve. After Victor's revelations about Ethan's debts and Rachel's deadly history, I was done being a victim. Sitting in my study, the familiar scent of cedar and leather grounding me, I decided to fight back, not just to clear my name, but to expose the monsters who had betrayed me. We need to draw them out, I told Victor, my voice steady with the fire of my old prosecutorial days. I want to set a trap. His eyes widened. Clara, that is dangerous. Rachel is a killer and Ethan is desperate. They will not hesitate to try again. I nodded. That is what I am counting on. The plan was simple, but bold. We would leak a rumor through Henry's media contacts that I had found evidence proving my innocence, documents, maybe recordings hidden on the ranch. It would be irresistible to Ethan and Rachel. If they believed I had something that could expose them, they would come for it or for me. They will want to steal it or kill me before I can use it, I said. Victor frowned, but I saw grudging respect in his eyes. It is risky, but it could work. The FBI is interested in Rachel. She is wanted for multiple murders. They will back us up. Within hours, Henry had planted the story. Clara Prescott uncovers proof. She was framed, plans to turn it over to authorities in 48 hours. The FBI moved fast, rigging my ranch with hidden cameras and motion sensors, their agents positioned in unmarked vans nearby. I insisted on staying put despite Victor's plea to move to a safe house. They know this house, I said. They will come here where they think I am vulnerable. Every creak of the floorboards, every shadow in the October dusk felt like a threat now. I was bait, and the thought sent a chill through me, not of fear, but of anticipation. I had spent 25 years outsmarting liars in court. Now I would do it to save my life. As I waited, I thought of Ethan, the boy who had once run through these fields, laughing, promising to make me proud. That boy was gone, replaced by a man who had chosen greed over love, manipulated by Rachel's cold ambition. The pain of his betrayal burned, but it fueled me too. I was not just fighting for justice, I was fighting for the truth of who I was. A mother who had loved fiercely, a woman who had never backed down. The trap was set the ranch silent, except for the distant lowing of cattle. All I had to do was wait for Ethan and Rachel to take the bait. And when they did, I would be ready not as their prey, but as the hunter they had underestimated. 3 nights after we leaked the rumor, the trap sprang shut. I was in my study, pretending to read legal papers, but clutching a novel to calm my nerves when the motion sensors pinged. My heart raced as I checked the security feed. Ethan's SUV was parked near the back of the ranch, hidden by the pines. The FBI had warned me to stay put, but every instinct from my prosecutorial days screamed to be ready. I adjusted the wire taped beneath my blouse, its cold metal, a reminder that help was close, but not close enough if things went wrong. The ranch was silent the October night, heavy with anticipation. Ethan slipped through the French doors to the living room, moving with a stealth that broke my heart. He knew every blind spot in my security system. Rachel followed her silhouette, sharp, carrying a small bag that looked medical, not sentimental. Their whispers carried through the thin walls, chilling me. Where would she hide it? Rachel asked, her voice stripped of Lila's sugary drawl, now hard and clipped like a stranger's. The safe, probably, Ethan replied, his tone tense. She keeps important stuff there. Combinations. My birthday, she is predictable like that. Predictable. The word stung a reminder of how well he knew me and how he had used it against me. I stayed still, listening as they rummaged through the house drawers, opening papers, rustling a muffled curse when they found nothing. Are you sure she has something? Rachel hissed. This could be a setup. Ethan's voice was sharp. She switched the coffee cups. Did not she? Mom's too smart to get lucky. She knows something. I almost smiled at his grudging respect, but it twisted into pain. My son, who I had loved through every failure, was hunting me driven by debts and Rachel's ruthless ambition. They were searching for evidence that did not exist, but their presence confirmed everything. My life was their prize, and they would kill to claim it. They moved closer, their footsteps echoing in the hallway. I gripped my novel tighter, my pulse hammering, but I kept my face calm, ready for the confrontation. Rachel's voice grew colder. If we do not find it, we make her tell us. Then we end this. End this. The words sent a shiver down my spine, not of fear, but of clarity. This was the moment I had prepared for, the moment I would turn their greed against them. The FBI was out there watching, waiting to pounce, but until they did, I was alone with two people who had tried to poison me. My ranch, my home had become a battlefield, and I was no longer the prey. I was Clara Prescott, and I was ready to fight for my life. The door to my study creaked open, and Ethan stepped in his face, a mix of determination and unease. Rachel followed, her eyes cold as steel, holding a syringe that gleamed under the lamplight. I sat at my desk, my back to them, pretending to study papers, but every muscle was coiled ready. The wire under my blouse felt like a lifeline, the FBI's presence a silent promise beyond the walls. I turned slowly, letting fear flicker across my face, part act, part truth. Ethan, I said, my voice trembling just enough. What are you doing here? You are not supposed to contact me. We need to talk. Mom. Ethan said, his tone hard, but his eyes darted to Rachel, seeking her lead. She stepped closer, blocking the door, her smile gone. Clara, we know you have evidence, she said, her voice no longer Lila's sweet drawl, but Rachel Voss' icy command. Tell us where it is, and this ends quickly. I clutched the desk, my heart pounding, not from the syringe, but from the sight of my son complicit in this betrayal. I needed to stall to keep them talking until the FBI moved in. There is no evidence, I said, letting my voice waver. I made it up to make people question what happened. Ethan's face twisted with doubt, but Rachel's eyes narrowed, assessing me like a predator. She is lying, she told him, her grip tightening on the syringe. She is too clever to bluff like this. I met Ethan's gaze, searching for the boy I had raised, the one who had promised to protect me. Ethan, please, I said, my voice breaking. Was any of it real? Did you ever love me? Or was it always about the money? For a moment, his mask slipped. Guilt, maybe regret, but Rachel cut in, her voice venomous. He loves your fortune, Clara, just like I do. Everyone who has ever smiled at you was after one thing. Her words were a knife twisting in the wound of Ethan's betrayal, but they gave me what I needed: time. I leaned back, my hands shaking for effect. You are wrong, I whispered, my eyes locked on Ethan. I loved you more than money ever could. Rachel smirked, raising the syringe, but before she could move, the room exploded with sound. FBI agents crashing through doors, shouting, "Hands up!" Rachel lunged, syringe, flashing, but an agent tackled her. Ethan froze, his face crumpling as reality hit. I stayed seated, my heart a storm of grief and triumph. They had come to kill me, but I had outplayed them. The boy I had loved was gone. But Clara Prescott, the fighter, was still here, and this was not over yet. The FBI agents swarmed my study, their voices sharp and commanding as they pinned Rachel to the floor, her syringe skittering across the hardwood. Ethan stood frozen. His hands raised his face, a mask of shock and defeat. "You set us up," he whispered, his eyes meeting mine, a mix of hatred and disbelief. I held his gaze, my heart heavy but unyielding. "You tried to murder me," I said softly. "I just returned the favor." The words felt like ash, but they were true. My son, the boy I had raised with love and hope, had chosen greed over me, and now he faced the consequences. The arrest was swift, efficient. Rachel fought spitting curses as Agent Sarah Chen cuffed her, while Ethan went quietly, his shoulders slumping as reality sank in. The FBI had recorded everything Rachel's cold admission, that they had targeted my fortune, Ethan's complicity in their plan. The wire under my blouse had captured it all, every damning word a nail in their coffin. As they were led away, I sat in my chair, the ranch silent again, except for the distant hum of cattle. The adrenaline faded, leaving a hollow ache. I had won, but at what cost? My son was gone not just to prison, but from the life we had shared. Victor arrived minutes later, his face a mix of relief and exhaustion. "The recording's solid," he said. "Rachel's confession ties her to the poisoning and implicates Ethan in the conspiracy. The FBI is already linking her to other cases. Her real name, Rachel Voss, is a wanted serial killer." I nodded, staring at the cedar beams of my study, the same ones Thomas and I had chosen when we built this house. "What happens now?" I asked. "The charges against you will be dropped," Victor said. "Rachel's facing multiple life sentences. Ethan is looking at 20 years minimum for conspiracy and fraud." I should have felt joy, but all I felt was the weight of betrayal. Ethan had known about my will, how I had redirected my fortune to a wildlife charity. He and Rachel had planned to frame me to challenge my sanity and claim the ranch. They had underestimated me, but the victory was bittersweet. I thought of the crayon drawings Ethan used to make the promises of a future we would build together. Those dreams were ash now burned by his greed and Rachel's ruthlessness. But I was still here, still Clara Prescott, the woman who had outsmarted them. The ranch stretched out beyond my window, its golden plains a reminder of what I had fought for, not just my life, but my truth. Justice had struck swift and sharp, and though my heart was scarred, it still beat ready for what came next. The morning after the arrests, I woke to a ranch bathed in golden light, the Colorado plains stretching endlessly beyond my window. The FBI had cleared out the media vans, had thinned, and the charges against me were officially dropped. Victor called with the news, his voice lighter than I had ever heard. "You are free, Clara," he said. "The evidence from the wire Rachel's confession, it is airtight. The DA is closing the case against you." I stood in my study, the weight of the electronic monitoring bracelet gone, but the scars of Ethan's betrayal lingered. I had won my freedom, but the cost was a son I no longer recognized. I sat at my desk pulling out the will I had rewritten months ago. The Prescott fortune, $90 million from cattle land and mineral rights, would not go to Ethan, nor to the greed that had torn us apart. Instead, it would fund the Prescott Wildlife Foundation, protecting Colorado's endangered species, giving purpose to a legacy that had nearly destroyed me. I called my attorney to finalize it, ensuring every penny would nurture life, not greed. Ethan would get nothing, his inheritance reduced to the consequences of his choices. The decision brought a quiet peace, a reclaiming of my life's meaning. The media had flipped overnight headlines, shifting from oil heiress accused of poisoning to heroic widow exposes serial killer. Offers for book deals and interviews flooded in, but I declined them all. This story was mine, too raw to share with a world hungry for sensationalism. Instead, I worked with Victor and Henry to dismantle Rachel and Ethan's network. Their co-conspirators were arrested, their hidden accounts seized, their lies exposed. Rachel, now known as Rachel Voss, faced justice for her victims, while Ethan's prison sentence carried the weight of his debts that would follow him even behind bars, whispered to the right ears. As I walked the ranch, the cattle grazing under a crisp October sky, I felt my home become mine again. The betrayal had tainted it, but now it was a sanctuary once more, filled with memories of better days, with Thomas, of a life before greed tore it apart. I am sharing this with you because stories like mine matter, stories of survival, of refusing to be broken. If my fight moves, you hit that subscribe button. Your support means I can keep sharing these truths, reminding us all that we are stronger than our scars. Join me and let us keep telling stories that light the way forward. Tonight, I sit in my study, a glass of wine in hand, the Colorado stars sparkling beyond my window. The ranch is quiet. The cattle settled, the air cleansed of betrayal's stain. 6 months ago, I was Clara Prescott, accused of murder, betrayed by my son Ethan and his wife Rachel, a serial killer who saw me as her next payday. Now, I am Clara Prescott, survivor, the woman who turned their greed into their downfall. The FBI's arrest, Rachel's life sentences, Ethan's 20 years in prison. It is justice, not from a courtroom, but from my refusal to be their victim. As I toast to that truth, I feel something I have not in years: peace. Ethan's letter arrived last week, full of apologies, claims that Rachel manipulated him, that he never meant to hurt me. I read it twice, then let it burn in the fireplace. Some betrayals cut too deep for forgiveness. Some wounds do not heal. He chose her lies over the mother who gave him everything. And now he lives with that choice, his cell, a reminder of greed's cost. My ranch, once tainted by their plot, is mine again. New locks, a new housekeeper, and a security system. Ethan's keys will never touch. The Prescott Wildlife Foundation is my legacy now. Every dollar of my $90 million fortune protecting creatures who deserve care, not predators like Rachel and Ethan. I walk these plains daily, the golden grass whispering memories of better times, Thomas's laughter, Ethan's childhood dreams. Those memories do not hurt anymore. They are part of who I am, a woman who fought and won. Rachel and Ethan thought they could break me, an aging widow they saw as weak. They learned too late that Clara Prescott was forged in courtrooms, tempered by loss and fueled by a fire they could not extinguish. My greatest victory is not their punishment. It is this moment, this peace, this life reclaimed. You have walked this journey with me, felt the sting of betrayal, the thrill of justice. If my story has moved you, hit that like button to show the world you stand with survivors. Subscribe and ring the notification bell to join our community where we share tales of women who refuse to be victims. And please leave a comment below. Tell me, what would you do if betrayal knocked at your door? Your thoughts fuel this channel, keeping these stories alive. Let us keep this conversation going. Until next time, this is Clara Prescott, toasting to new beginnings, to resilience, and to the power of standing tall. Truth is stranger than fiction, and every story deserves to be heard.